welcome back to the channel. Previously we built this brake pedal assembly. Technically I built it and then you just sat. In this episode we'll be building the footrest. So the footrest is the white plate you can see at the bottom there. So it's got the brake pedal and the throttle pedal bolted to it, and then in turn it's bolted onto the frame. It's got a number of lightning holes and some foot locating features. Okay, and here's the drawing for it. So we've got a number of lightning holes and some M8 holes to tap through, and some through clearance holes of 8mm. The whole part's 10mm thick. Right, let's go to the CNC machine. So this is the finish off the machine. I'm just cleaning off the tabs here. What I usually do is just lightly dress it off at an angle like that with a file, just so I'm working away from the clean edge until I get within about 0.5mm, and then just finish it off with this really small file here, and then you get quite a nice edge on it. And then when you get down to that kind of finish like that, a little bit of this 3M paper here. There we are, not too bad. Right, let's finish it off. although you've drawn the parts in CAD and you've made them to that CAD, so therefore they should fit, it's still quite a relief when you put them together, and they do actually go together nicely. Okay, next up we're going to make the throttle. Here's a quick overview of that part. So the throttle is the long blue part, and it's mounted in that throttle mount. There's a pivot at the bottom, and then there's a spring part way up. There's some end stops at each end to prevent over travel forward and backwards. And here's a look at the drawing. The pedal itself's upside down, so the pivot is actually at the top here as drawn, and that's the 12mm hole. Then there's an M6 tap area there for the spring, so that's the relief, that pocket there for the spring to sit in. And then there's a slot there which is controls the throttle itself, the potentiometer. We'll see that a little later. Then there's a pocket there just to make it look a little bit nicer, take out a little bit of weight. And then right at the top we've got our M12 coarse pitch 1.75 thread, and that's where the throttle bar itself goes in. The material's 8mm thick. Okay, it's on the CNC machine. Let's go. So I'm using Fusion 360 for the cam. I'm going to start off here with a 2D pocket. So here we are, machining that pocket. Now we've left, I think it's about 0.1mm on the sidewalls to finish off, because this is our roughing pass. Then onto a 2D pocket, again leaving some material on the sidewalls, about 0.1mm. And then finishing it off with a 2D contour. Then we go on to a slot. So I don't like doing slots, but the slot was 6mm and the tool is 6mm. I could have dropped down to a 4, but it was easier to stay with the 6 and make that work. Then we go down on to a 2D contour next, and then coming in with a 2D contour just to finish up. Then on to one of my favourite tool paths, that's the adaptive. So we can clear quite a lot of material. We have to spiral down into it first. Here we are doing it for real, spiraling in. And we get to the correct depth. We start adapting. I could have gone a little bit harder here, but it's getting the job done. There's not much to take out. Better to get the cut finished without melting aluminium. Of course, this is a roughing pass, a roughing strategy, so we need to finish off. We've got a 2D contour, just clean up the sides. Here we are doing it for real, spiraling down to depth, cleaning off one side. Quite a nice finish that, pleased with that. And then we go on to the other side, again spiraling down to the right depth, finishing off the contour on the side. That's all fine, except the base is now not quite to the finished size, so we're going to come in with a parallel, finish off the floor. You can see that in cam, and then we hop over to the real part. There we are, just this parallel tool path, just cleaning up the floor, taking the last 0.1mm away. Then we're on to cutting the part out, and I mean, there's many ways you can do this. The easiest way, just from this point of view, with the part we got here, is just to go in with a 2D contour and just slot it out, and then have some tabs holding the part in. Here we are doing that for real, so don't like slotting, but in this case actually it does work quite well. and then you can just about see them there. We're just leaving the tabs just to hold the part in place, and then we come in. We've left 0.1mm on the sidewall, so we come in and at full depth just clean that off, and we have our part machined to size. And there it is. It's ready to be cut free and tidied up. Okay, and here's the finished part. So if we just compare it there next to the drawing, so we have our 12mm hole at the top there, that will be the pivot for the throttle. Then there's our M6x1 threaded hole, that will be the bolt. The pocket here is a recess for the spring. Then we have a machine pocket here. This is where one of the ends of the potentiometer will slide up and down when this is going through its arc motion. We've got a bit of relief here, just take some weight out. And then there's our threaded hole at the top, our M12 by 1.75 coarse thread. And there we are. Okay, see if you can guess what part we're going to make next. Oh, that's kind of giving it away. Okay, next up is the throttle mount. That's the part that mounts the throttle. Okay, as you can see, I've upgraded my holographic projector. We're now doing renderings. Look a bit nicer. So as this spins round, you'll see there's a large recess in the middle, that big pocket. That's where the throttle pedal will live. I'm actually going to put a cover over the top of all this. You'll see that a little bit later on. The hole at the bottom, that's for the pivot. Then there's a small hole towards the rear. That's for the bolt that holds the spring. The slot you can see at the top there, that's for the potentiometer, and then the holes at the end are for the limit screws. Okay, so we've got the plate mounted to the CNC machine. I've only got a little bit of this 20mm plate left, so I cut out a 1:1 template of the part just to make sure, and I've just traced around it just to make sure that I'm not going to hit any of the holes and I can get the part out of the middle here. So these are the 3mm holes that will later on be tapped, and they'll take the screws that hold the cover plate on. And here we're spiralling down again to a 2D adaptive. The adaptive is a roughing pass, so here we are cleaning up the walls with a 2D contour and then cleaning up the base with a parallel. So that's it, cleaned and deburred, now ready for Op 2. Okay, so I've got the part now set up in the vise. I've got the vise trammed in. We're going to do Op 2, which is we need a hole here and we need a slot here, and that should match up with the slot on the other side for the potentiometer. And we're starting with a 4mm 2 flute carbide. We'll drill the hole and then use it to cut the slot. Now we're on to Op 3. I've turned the part round in the vise and I'm aligning it with that edge. It's the fixed edge of that jaw. That will be my X0. Then we'll come in and do the 2 pilot holes that will later become the M8 tapped holes that hold it onto the foot plate. Okay, so here's the original drawing. One thing you might notice is earlier I'd said I was going to tap these for M3, but I realised because my CNC machine can only hold down to a 3mm in the collet, then I had to drill them out 3, and then I've upgraded these to 4mm or M4, and the tapping size for that is 3.3. Essentially I didn't have a drill small enough in the CNC to make these M3. So they're now M4, but there's enough material on there, and there'll be a button head screw that holds the cover on here. We'll make that a little bit later. The other screws are all tapped, so we've got our M8s down at the bottom here, our M10 for the throttle. There's the M6 bolt there will hold the spring, and then we've got our M6 tapped holes here. There'll be the end stop limit adjustments, and then there's our slot. Potentiometer will fit inside there, and the arm of the potentiometer will stick out and be activated by the throttle. We'll show you that a little bit later. Okay, let's see if the throttle pedal actually fits in here. Let's give it a quick dry test. Okay, so here's that throttle mount we just made, and here's the throttle we made earlier, and then the matching pivot bolt. Let's see if that goes in there. Feels good. I'm hoping I've made the shank of this just long enough to give this room to move, but for this to be tight, so just guess we'll find out. That's pretty tight now. It feels, oh yes, that's good. Okay, there's our throttle pedal. Just see how much free play we've got in that. Okay, that's good. Right, let's put the limit stops in next. Okay, next thing to do is, so we need to connect up the spring here. So again, we'll look in our spring box and see what we've got in terms of hardware. Maybe that one. Too long. Try that. Or that might be better. It's a larger diameter. Okay, maybe something like that. It's not very strong. Let's see what else we got. Hold on, back in a minute. Right, so I've gone through a range of springs here, some small, medium and large ones, and eventually settled on this one that gives a reasonable amount of force and that I can fit onto these two bolts here. What I've got to be careful of, there's enough return force here, so the potentiometer that sits into this slot, it has the arm that sticks out and runs in this slot here, and the spring needs to be powerful enough to pull that potentiometer back to the zero to turn the motor off, otherwise it'll just go into a runaway. We don't want that. So I'll go with this for now, and I'll see if I can get hold of a slightly stiffer spring. I think that'll be do a better job. Anyway, it's the basic principle, it's all working. So all we need next is to see if we can fit this part in here, the pedal itself. Only problem is I was having a look around in my stock box earlier, and I'm all out of stock of that 15mm bar. It's a shame, because I was hoping to finish the video and get it out today, ideally. Hold on, I have an idea. That's handy. Right, let's go see if it fits. Yeah, looks good. We'll just dry assemble it for now. I'll Loctite it on the final assembly. Okay, let's go and mount this onto the footrest.